Hello, everybody. It is Thursday. How are you doing tonight? Welcome to Thursday night. Hello, Kelly. Live, you're here. I was worried that you weren't going to be here live with the way you were emailing. Welcome to the head of the class. Welcome to the head of the class. How are you? Kitty's here. What are y'all grateful for tonight? Michelle, Renda, I got to catch up with you. I need to catch up with, Miss Michelle. How you doing tonight, everybody? What are we grateful for tonight? What are you grateful for? Tell me about your Thursday night. Hey, Adele and Dazzle. Pat and the Peanut Gallery are in the house. In the house. How are you tonight? How are you? Tell me what we're grateful for tonight, guys. This is your show. Tell me about it. As we cruise along through week 44-45, week 44-45, we're on and we're cruising through it. Tell me what you're grateful for. PPP funds in the bank? Damn, Pat, you're good. You are good. All right, Pat. Boom. I like happy customers. We have new happy customers from California. I like that. Sun and sales, Michelle. I like that. A long day for Kelly. I'm sorry, Kelly. Jennifer is here. Great to have you here, Jennifer. Great to have you all here tonight. I'm glad to have you. I am most impressed by Miss Pat and her peanut gallery for PPP funds in the bank. I think I need to go to work in Florida. I'm going to work in Florida. I'm going to work for Pat and the Peanut Gallery. They got extra money to hire me, and I can help manage a store in Florida. But that is great. I am thrilled. That is such a blessing. That is such a blessing, and it's a blessing that many of you are going to have in the coming days. So I am very thrilled with that. That is some great news. Great news. And news that many of you will be saying the same thing in the days to come. In the days to come. You'll all be saying that. The money has arrived. I am thrilled that your bank made that easy, Pat. Hey, Nebraska Angie, how are you? Hey, Rose is with us. Great to have you here, Rose. Glad to have you with us. You're part of all this, Rose. Marianne is live with us, Marianne. Great to have you here tonight. Great to have you here. So let's get this party started because it's we got to get going. You guys didn't just show up here to hear me sing anything or read a poem or anything like that. But you do want me to read the Good Morning, Good Night book. The Good Morning, Good Night book is how we start this program every night with our friend Lin-Manuel Miranda. Less than 6 degrees of separation from him. Does that make us that much closer to Biden? I hear he was there. I don't know. Maybe. Tonight, if you are following along, there's no buying a boat, Pat. There is no buying a boat. I asked my peanut gallery. They're auctioning off Knight Rider, the kit from the show Knight Rider. Hasselhoff is auctioning that off. His copy of it that he owns, and I said, can we buy that with the PPP funds? And I was told by my peanut gallery, no, and not a boat either, and not a land boat, and they really want a land boat. Hey, Julie Jankowitz, how are you? All right, we're in the Good Morning, Good Night book, and tonight we're on page 104, 105. Our good morning is, good morning, woke up, grateful for the air in my lungs, the sleep in my eyes, the ache in my bones, the chance to say hello again. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. So, what do I got for you tonight? I think we just better dive in. I got other stuff to talk to you about that I can talk to you about another time. But I got to dive in tonight, and let's talk PPP and Employee Retention Tax Credit, because all this stuff's confusing you, and I don't want you to be confused. And so, with that, we have to back up a little bit. So hang on, let me step forward so I can back up. Backing up, backing up, backing up. Okay, we've backed up now. So where I think I'm losing you all, and from the emails I've been getting, is on how you spent your PPP money. So if you have not applied for forgiveness yet, if you have not applied for forgiveness, which is what I've advised to many of you, especially if you have a loan of $150,000 or less, okay, if your original PPP loan was under $150,000, I've advised to wait to apply for forgiveness, okay, until Form 3508S was available in its new form, which I announced last night, the night before. I've lost track of days here. And that form, when your bank is ready for it, I'm okay with, except for the time frame. So backing up, when you first took out your PPP, way back last year, a lifetime ago, sometime last year, April, May, June, whenever you took that out, the rules at that time were completely different than the rules that exist today. The great thing is the rules are better today. Okay, the rules that exist for the PPP forgiveness and how you can get forgiveness and how that applies to how you spent the money are completely different, okay, than they were last year. And they are better. The great thing with them being better is if you have not applied for forgiveness, you can go back and look at all your expenses during the time you had that money and apply them to the PPP. It doesn't matter that the money, like many of you, followed, again, original rules, and you set that money up in a completely separate account, and you spent the money that you intended for the PPP out of that account, which was good. That was really good and really important under the rules that existed prior. Under the new rules, you can go back and look at all the money you spent in the 8 weeks, starting with an 8-week period, okay, from the day the money hit your account. You can look at all the expenses you paid during that 8-week period, and starting with an 8-week period, decide what went to payroll, what of the PPP you spent on payroll, and what you spent on other allowed expense, such as rent, utilities, allowed supplier costs, allowed interest, allowed other PPE, getting your store set up with sneeze guards, and all the other things that you did during those times that are allowed expenses. You are allowed to go back and reallocate how you spent that if you have not gone for forgiveness yet. And that is really the secret sauce in maximizing the benefit of the PPP and maximizing the benefit of the Employee Retention Tax Credit. The secret sauce is going back and looking at all your expenses. And I know for many of you that's going to be getting out of shoebox now, because when you did this, okay, you used that account to keep track of everything. It made it really nice and easy, because many of you did, just like we talked about, and set up a special account and just wrote the checks out of there so you knew everything would be nice and clean. And now the rules are different. The rules are different, and you can apply them to your benefit. So what you need to do is go back and look at all the money you spent from the day that hit your account. And the first number you need to come up with is how quick you can hit 60%, really 60 to 65% on payroll. So if you got a $10,000 PPP, for simple math here, how fast can you get to between $600 and $6,500 on payroll? Okay. And can you spend that the other PPP money on? Did you have enough of other allowable expenses during that time to spend on other things? Okay. Did you have enough other expenses? Okay. Rent that you paid, health insurance, supplies. I mean, the barn door is pretty wide open on what other expenses are covered at this point, because it's anything that you would be allowed to do under most SBA loans is covered. Okay, you can't be paying you can't be paying for political things. You can't be doing political donations out of it. Things of that nature. You can't buy a boat or a land boat with it. You can't pay your bookie off with it. But most other expenses fall into the category of allowable. So if you can find those and shorten the amount of time that you spent your PPP, you are able to take advantage of the employee retention tax credit earlier. And that is even if, so let's say, in an example, because I've worked with a few of you today, you're able to spend the 60%, 65%. I just want you to be safe, because numbers are, especially with payroll, because there's so much that goes into it, numbers can be kind of funny. So I want to keep it, I want to allow for a margin of error on it. And so I'm saying 60 to 65% on payroll. We'll try to get your bookie covered in the next bill. We'll try to get your bookie covered in the next bill, Julie. But because I don't want your bookie coming over and breaking your legs or anything. I know those Chicago types, you know. Hopefully your bookie's over the border in Wisconsin where they're friendlier. So I want you to leave a little bit of margin. I don't want you to be at a solid 60% for payroll. I want you to have a little bit more on it and go to 62%, 63, no more than 65. If you're at 65%, between 62 and 65% for payroll. So on a $10,000 PPP, that'd be between $6,200 and $6,500 on payroll. Let's say you got to that at week 5. Okay, you hit that threshold at week 5. Okay, and within the following 3 weeks, okay, because you have to have a minimum of 8 weeks of your covered period, could you have spent the other expenses? And even if you spent it in 6 weeks, the covered period becomes 8. Okay, that doesn't mean that you didn't spend it faster. Okay, it is okay if you spent it faster, that you exceeded the spend on it. Okay, you can spend it faster, but for the sake of the PPP, the earliest forgiveness period you can have is 8 weeks. You can have anything between 8 and 24 weeks. It is your choice on loans under $150,000. Yes, Rose, there is a new form. It's available at narts.org/resalestrong. Although keep in mind, though, that you have it doesn't mean your bank is ready to take it yet. Okay? And what I really want everybody to look hard at before you fill out a forgiveness form, before you do the forgiveness form, is these periods, because I want you to maximize the employee retention tax credit. Thank you, Adele, for directing Rose and anyone else that's asking to with the link to where the forms are. So that's why it's real important. Don't rush in. Most of your banks will know. I don't know of any bank that's ready for the new form yet. Okay, I don't know any bank that's actually ready to accept the new form. I tend to have them and am talking about them before the banks know, or certainly the person you're talking to at the bank knows that a new form exists. Even though they've been sent out to the banks, their computers and everything else aren't ready for it yet. So last night's show is one to watch, Rose, to catch up on what I talked about with the form. It was a good episode, if I do say so myself. So the employee retention tax credit. Let's break that down, and I'm going to just work on 2020 tonight because you need to understand how the employee retention tax credit and the PPP forgiveness go hand in hand. Okay, because you want to have as many open weeks to get the employee retention tax credit as possible. Okay, especially for some of you that aren't in areas with heavy restrictions. So the employee retention tax credit, so now I'm shifting gears a little bit, and I know we're going to have to go over this over a few nights because I know how confusing this is. So I'm doing my best to make it less confusing, but I do understand that, this isn't everybody's wheelhouse. So the employee retention tax credit, okay? That tax credit, and when I say credit, I mean cash. This is not a reducing your tax bill. This is actual money. Hardcore cash that they will send you. I don't have any hardcore cash on me, otherwise I would use that as an example. That would be a great prop. Maybe my peanut gallery could give me cash. My peanut gallery is making some rude comments about how they never see any cash. But hey, I digress. So even though the technical term for it is a credit, I want you to understand that this is hard, cold cash money that many of you are eligible for. Those of you that are in northern states or states with more restrictions are more eligible for it than people that aren't. So you are eligible for it. To cover this again, you are eligible for the... Ooh. Hang on a second. We have a prop now. Cash. This is what the tax credit is. Cold, hard cash. Greenbacks, people. Greenbacks. People like greenbacks. They'll even send it to you in the good old-fashioned $2 bills if you want it. They are legitimate U.S. currency. So, cold hard cash. Thank you, Peanut Gallery. So, the two ways you qualify for the employee retention tax credit in 2020 is you have to meet one of these two conditions. One of these two conditions in 2020 to have earned this. During the quarter that you're in, or the preceding quarter, you can use either the preceding quarter or the current quarter. If you are down in sales 50% or more, you qualify to take the credit. Okay, so you can say that can be used one of two ways. You can say I was down in the second quarter 50%, and you can claim the credit in the third quarter because of that. Or you can say I was down in the second quarter and claim it in the second quarter, or down in the third quarter and claim it in the third quarter. So that is one classification, being down 50% in sales. The other, and the more prevalent in our industry to many of you, is that you were complying with a government restriction on your business during the said quarter. Okay? And if you are complying with a government restriction, the most common restriction that you'd be complying with is occupancy limits. Okay? So if you are complying with an occupancy limit in your city, state, county, okay, that you are required to comply with during the quarter, even if you didn't greatly change. And I say that, people are like, well, I couldn't have my big sale, but, I was dealing with the customers. I never had to turn anybody away. We were able to be at 50% occupancy, and I never turned anybody away. But that occupancy level restricted your business, okay? If you were at 50%, if you were not allowed to operate at 100% of normal, regardless of where your sales were, because some of you have done a tremendous job of making up sales in other ways, through live sales, through online, through just, standing out there on the street and saying, hey, come here with this, okay? You gotta buy this. However you've done it, sales is irrelevant if you are under a government restriction, okay? The level of sales is irrelevant. Okay, so if you are in a state, Illinois is a perfect example. Virginia is a great example. Maryland, the whole Northeast is under restrictions. You qualify to get the credit in the third and fourth quarters, the ones I'm talking about, because the other caveat to the credit is, here is the caveat, and here is where the PPP and the Employee Retention Tax Credit work hand in hand. You cannot claim the Employee Retention Tax Credit for payroll that was paid with the PPP. You can claim it on payroll that was not done with the PPP, okay? But you cannot claim it for payroll that was used with your PPP. And that is an important distinction. So that is why it is so important to spend through your PPP faster to maximize the credit. Okay, so that when you're looking back at how you spent your PPP last year, you want to hit the payroll number the fastest, so the rest of the quarter you can claim the credit on. And that is why that is incredibly important, okay? So what is the credit? Okay, so you can't use it with PPP money. Hey, Ellen, the birthday girl, the chic birthday girl. Happy birthday to Ellen. Happy birthday to Ellen. Happy birthday, dear Ellen. Happy birthday to you. Great to have you here, Ellen. I hope you have the chicest of birthdays, and I hope Dutch's daughter made a fabulous dinner like they always do for you. I bet you it was extra special because it was your birthday. I wish I was there to celebrate. I wish I was. So what is the Employee Retention Tax Credit in money? What does the Employee Retention Tax Credit mean in dollars? Okay. If you qualify for the Employee Retention Tax Credit, you are allowed in 2020, and I'm just dealing with 2020 now. We will deal with 2021 after we get this first batch done. Let's just get 2020 done. I know you feel like it's done, but look at it this way. There's money sitting back here in 2020. This money is back here in 2020, and I need you to go get it. I need you to go back into 2020 and get that money. That is what I need you to do. Okay? So the credit is, and again, credit equals cash. Credit equals cash. Okay? The credit is a 50% credit to eligible businesses, okay, of 50%, okay, of the first $10,000 of wages that you pay per employee with non-PPP money in 2020. So 50% of the first $10,000 in wages that you pay someone with non-PPP money. So if you had a new kid, a new person working for you, and they only worked 2 weeks, and you paid them with non-PPP money, and you paid them $500, you would get $250. The government would open up their wallet and say that you paid them $500. Okay, I'm going to give you $250 for that employee. If you paid them, if they earned $5,000 with you with non-PPP money, the government's going to say, oh, you paid them $5,000. Hang on a second here. I got to get some hundreds. That would be $2,500 coming to you. $2,500 right to you. This is gross wages. Gross wages. This is gross wages per employee. This is based on gross wages per employee. Up to $10,000 in wages. It is a credit that you claim per quarter. So you have to do it per employee, per quarter. I guess what I need to do, I will put up a sample spreadsheet for this. I have a spreadsheet that I did because I have done all this work. Do I have it here? It's on my desk. So I have a spreadsheet by quarter, okay, to make sure that, because you can max this out. As soon as an employee earns $10,000, they're maxed out. If they earn $10,000 in the third quarter, there's no credit to earn on that employee in the fourth quarter. But that doesn't mean you can't get money from other employees in the fourth quarter. So I had employees that maxed out on it, but I had plenty of other employees that didn't. It actually starts April 1st, Alan, for all intents and purposes. There's technically a March date that it starts, but it starts April 1st with non-PPP money. So that's why when you spent your PPP really matters. Okay, and that's why we have to look at your forgiveness before you apply for it. Okay, so that we have everything lined up to how you spent the PPP money the first time around beforehand. So we need to get that done. That is why it is so important to look at that. That is correct, Rose. As an S-Corp employee, you are included in this. Congratulations. How much does the government owe for your payroll for 2020? Because that is what they want to do. They want to count out the greenbacks to you. And after you apply for the credit, you fill out IRS Form 7200 to say to the IRS, hey, you owe me money for all this. I'd like it in cash. Cash is what I would like. I would like you to send that to me. And IRS Form 7200 is how you request the money after you file amended 941s for the quarter. So it maxes out at $10,000 in 2020, or a credit for in wages gets you a $5,000 credit. So the maximum credit you can get per employee is $5,000 if you have that in payroll spent with non-PPP funds. But many of you, when you relook at how you could have spent the PPP money, now only spending 62 to 65% on payroll and spending it as quickly as possible, you'll find weeks in the second quarter that many of you are eligible to still use it for. We did too. I know when I did ours, I'm like, originally I wasn't going to bother. And then I did it, and I was like, holy moly, that's real money. When I did it for the second quarter, because of all the lower employees that were involved, I'm like, yeah, we're applying for the second quarter too, because there was enough payroll there to make that worthwhile. That was non-PPP payroll once we redid the PPP spend under the current rules. Again, the rules have changed. When you first got your PPP, you had to spend 75%, and I was telling you to spend 80% on payroll because that was the rules at the time. These rules that exist today apply to your PPP original payroll. If they're on payroll, if you're an S Corp CRETA, and you're on payroll, you do qualify for the employee retention tax credit, and you qualify to use them under the PPP. If you're a sole proprietorship and some of the pass-through LLCs, you may not. It depends on how you're handling your taxes on that. But as an S Corp, you do qualify for the credit. If your PPP runs into the third quarter, it's really the same. It honestly doesn't matter, Sylvia. So if your PPP runs into the third quarter, yeah, if you can hit the max, Kelly, if you can max out at 5,000 in quarter 3 and quarter 4, then you're correct. There's no reason to look at. Yes, Ellen, C Corp too. If you can hit it in quarter 3 and quarter 4, I forgot you're a C Corp. If you can hit it in quarter 3 and quarter 4, you're right. There's no reason to look back at quarter 2. But I had enough part-timers and other things floating around, plus some people that initially returned and then didn't, that there was money on the table there, and it was not. Because of the amount of employees I have, it was not insignificant. I never like to give the government any extra money than what they are due, but the money was not insignificant, and so I went back to quarter 2. I had originally done it with just quarter 3 and quarter 4, and my accountant and I were looking at it, and let's redo quarter 2. Let's just make sure that we're not leaving anything on the table, and we did that, and it was fine. If your PPP goes into quarter 3, Sylvia, you just start it with the pay periods after your PPP is done. You can use any payroll that is not done with PPP funds towards it, even if it's in the quarter that your PPP finished. So as long as your PPP is spent, okay, on payroll. So as long as in your folder. So again, let's go to this folder where, again, you're going to have the auditors a couple of years from now. People are going to get randomly audited, and my phone is going to ring, and they're going to say, hey, Neil, do you remember the PPP rules? And I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to say, do you remember the folder? Where's your folder? And you're like, oh, shoot, I forgot you made us do that folder of all our records at the time. I have that someplace. It's under something. It's here. It's there. It's under the... I found the folder, Neil. It's under the sticky note. Okay? And in that folder, you want to have all the records attached for your PPP. Okay? I have all my payroll journals attached for the PPP that I spent the PPP money. I have my journals showing where my other authorized expenses for the PPP were that I came up with the amounts, and the canceled checks that go along with it. So I have all of that together to show that I've used it used the PPP for the proper things. So when I stop having payroll for the PPP, I can pick right back up, okay, and use the subsequent payrolls. Any payrolls that aren't used for PPP, I can use those payrolls towards the employee retention tax credit. And this adds up quickly as you start working on it. The key is the max. Okay, you max out at $5,000 in credit per employee. Okay, so the $10,000 in wages. And again, we're only talking 2020 right now. We're only talking 2020 because once we get 2020 right, you're going to love 2021. But let's get 2020 done correctly first. Let's go back, because you guys left all this money back here in 2020. And we're going back to get it. Okay? That is what this is about. This is about following the rules that now exist, okay, which allow you to change how you spent your PPP, and going back and finding the money you left in 2020. Okay? I mean, doesn't that make 2020 better? Yes, Sylvia. So yes, if you hit your 60% of payroll, which I'm still saying hit 62 to 65. So just to quote me correctly, I am saying hit 62 to 65. The government says you're fine at 60. There's just so many things into payroll that I just don't want anyone to miss anything and just get penalized for a small calculation error. Okay, when these auditors come out, I want to send them packing. Here's my folder. See ya. Okay, go pick on somebody else that doesn't have a folder. But if you did that, if you spent your 62 to 65% before the third quarter, even though your 8 weeks isn't till the beginning of the third quarter, and you have a payroll that 8th week, you can claim that payroll towards the employee retention tax credit. It doesn't count towards the PPP as long as you have the other 35 to 38% of expenses, okay, 62 to 65 on payroll, 35 to 38 on other approved expenses. As long as you have that, you're done and clear. You just can't request a period that's less than 8 weeks from the Small Business Administration. So you are correct in your thinking. We're saying tomato, tomato, but you are correct. So that's why it's so important. So get those records together of hitting the 62 to 65% mark on payroll and see what that week is. See when that is. Okay, and this is from the date your PPP dollars hit your bank account. That is when the clock starts. The clock starts at the deposit. Deposit makes it is when it starts. Okay. So once that deposit hits, is when the clock starts. And from that day forward, even if you had a payroll that day, that counts. Okay, you can count that payroll. So as quickly as you can hit that 62 to 65% is as quick as you can start claiming the employee retention tax credit. And for some of you with a lot of employees or more low-wage employees, that's going to be very beneficial to maximize the credit across the second, third, fourth quarter. You have to do it per quarter. And I'll post a blank spreadsheet of what I did because I have it by quarter and it'll total it all up for you. Do I have an example of the work here? So, yeah, I mean, I have it by employee. So the columns I have are employee, social security number, earnings for the quarter, and then it calculates the credit due. Because you end out with some weird amounts. I mean, some of mine are, let's just see. Hang on a second. This might require glasses. One of my employees is $1,042.87, and I'm not letting the government off on that 87 cents. I want all of it. Another employee is $683.11. I got one on here, $42.06. That's what I'm getting. $42.06. And you know what? I want it. That'll buy me a cocktail at the Dutch's Daughter with my friend Ellen. That'll buy me a cocktail. No, it's when you paid them, Michelle. So Michelle is asking about deferred healthcare premiums, deferred rent, deferred any of these things. So anything that you deferred during this time, it's when did you write the check? When did you actually pay it? Is when it counts for the time period. It doesn't count when it's due, okay? Because it's even allowable. They're making some allowances to pay back rent and to do some different games with that. So it's when did you actually pay them is the key. I've been on TV, and I've been interviewed by multiple media outlets, and there's no denying that our first check after the PPP hit went to Blue Cross Blue Shield. I've said that a million times. Blue Cross thanks me. But when we paid for health care for people that were furloughed at the time, we paid employees health care for people that were furloughed. But that was literally the first check. The money hit our account. The next check went to Blue Cross Blue Shield. Okay, and that was important. So, that is an important expense, and that is considered in the payroll column too. So healthcare is considered in the payroll column of allowable expenses, where rent is in the other column. So rent falls into the 35 to 38%, and health insurance premiums fall into the 62 to 65% by Neil's math. Okay, again, that is my recommendation. That is my pro tip. But early on, we were at 80%. I was telling you to spend 80% on payroll because that was the rules that existed then. These rules exist now, and they apply to you retroactively. So that is why the forgiveness time frame and how you do this is so important. It is so important because I do not want you leaving any money back in 2020. This is your money. This is your money. It is your money to stabilize your business. Okay? This is putting a foundation under you to grow your way out of this. A very, very solid foundation. This is going to help so many of you have this extremely rock solid foundation to grow your way out of this. And that is exactly what we're going to do. That's exactly what we're doing. You guys are killing it. You guys are killing it. Okay? In how you are growing your way out of this. So that is why this is so important. So I will work on getting those spreadsheets. I don't have those set up to go up tonight, but I will work on getting those up there for you tomorrow. So you have this as an example spreadsheet to do. And it'll carry it all over. This is what we worked on. This is what I did, and I did this work. And my accountant has reviewed it. It got to his desk. So Tim is on it. And we got this to do these revised 941s, which is what you have to do to get the money. You are understanding it correctly, Michelle. Healthcare costs could help you get there if you were carrying healthcare for employees who were furloughed because you were forced to be closed. And in Ohio, you were forced to be closed like we were in Massachusetts, although you got to open sooner than we did. You got to open a few weeks earlier than we did in Massachusetts. But that could help get you there if you were carrying that and paying that. Absolutely could help get you there faster because that is an allowed expense for the PPP. It's an allowed payroll expense, and that's exactly one of the things we did was keep that healthcare going for people. Because how do you tell a person? It was hard enough to tell your employees that you're furloughing them. How do you tell them that even though you may not have had the money? I mean, anybody, any of us. And how do you tell your employee during a pandemic that there's no money for their health insurance, exactly when they might actually need health care? How do you tell them that there's no health care. And I've been interviewed a million times on that topic because reporters didn't get it. Reporters didn't get it that you care for your team like their family, because they are. Okay, they are the family, they are the heart of your business. Your team is the heart of your business. And that's something that big companies don't do. Okay, big companies don't do that. We slash things. They just slash. And little companies, how these people, their families, their kids. How can you tell them that there's no health care in the middle of a pandemic of all things? That you just don't do that. You just don't do that. So, but that's one thing that big companies would do, because they don't have the attachment to people in the same way that a small business does. I don't have that yet. I actually asked my friend at the National Retail Federation about that, and they're going to check on the map for that. But I know Virginia's been under restrictions, Sylvia. So occupancy restrictions, I know that. I know Virginia, Maryland, basically the whole northeast corridor up from there. South of you is not. South of Virginia is runs. You start running into, as you go into North Carolina, South Carolina. You run into states that did not have the level of restrictions. But a lot of states moving as you move north: Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Maine. There were a lot of restrictions in place on businesses. It's not only occupancy restrictions, but that's the easiest threshold to meet. So, it is restrictions on your business's operation. It's restrictions on your ability to operate as normal, okay, for your customers is the crux of the law. So, happy to discuss any particular restrictions in your individual states, but that is really the crux of the law. The occupancy one is a no-brainer. If you're under an occupancy restriction, it makes you eligible automatically. That's why I list that one as easy. And I know Florida is one of the states. The further south you go, the less restrictions and the less things that have been in place. But that doesn't mean there have been none during this time. And so we do need to look for that at both the state and the county level, because even it doesn't have to be a state-wide restriction. It can be a county restriction on it that limited your operation. And the key is limiting your operation to operate as normal. Normal, whatever the heck that is. Does anybody remember what normal is? But we still close early. We are unrestricted. Actually, the governor extended his order on occupancy in Massachusetts. We're at 25% occupancy right now. And he extended that through Super Bowl Sunday, I think, as of right now, is when he just extended it. So, we're fortunate for the size spaces that we have from that perspective. But again, you're limited with people coming out, but that's not the problem. So that doesn't get it to you. Yes, we are going to have a heck of a party when we're able to be together in person, Rose. Yes, we are. And I do hope we all have a profitable weekend. I hope the people from California that just moved here come out and shop some more. Shop some more. Your California money's good in Massachusetts. But that is the crux of it. So I want you to go back on your PPP money, and then we can follow the questions from there. So go back and actually look at that and work on that, so we can then work with you on the credit. Because then it gets different in 2021, and we'll cover that in a follow-up. So don't want to confuse things with 2021. I want you going back and finding this money This money that the government's holding for you, they want you to come get it. The government wants you to come get this money back in 2020. So go get it. Go get it. You know what? This video and everything that I talk about here, everything I talk about every night, goes over to narcs.org/resalestrong by noon the very next day. You can find all the files that I talk about, all the government forms, everything you need to keep on moving forward. You can find it all there at narcs.org/resalestrong, including a link to the YouTube channel. You're not alone running this store, where you can like, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell so you know when a new one drops. It's also there so you can share it with everybody in business. Everybody, butcher, baker, candlestick maker, whatever business they're in, share it with them so we can help everybody along, get them across the finish line. Yes, that's what we do here. I am here every night in the NARTS private Facebook group at more 8 than ish every night, live. If you have a question in between, you just email me, Neil, Neil, at ECIstores.com, Neil at ECIstores.com. Hang on, I got to get a sip of water before I read the next part. We start this program every night with the Good Morning, Good Night book. The Good Morning, Good Night book is where we start this program. Tonight we are on page 104, 105. Good morning. Woke up, grateful for the air in my lungs. The sleep in my eyes, which was still there because Max woke me up early. The ache in my bones. The chance to say hello again. Our good night tonight is good night. Lying down, grateful for the air in my lungs, the sleep in my eyes, the ache in my bones, and the chance to see you tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Neil Abramson. I do like a good party, a wedding, a bar mitzvah, an Ellen birthday party, Woo! We will party again in person, and when we can, I will party with you. Yes, I will. Yes, I will. But until then, and until tomorrow night at 8, at more 8 than ish, let's be real, at more 8 than ish, know that you, and especially Ellen, the birthday girl, yes, Ellen, yes, you're not alone running this store. I'll see you tomorrow night, everybody. Have a great night. It's time for dessert.